Experiences on PEER program. I know that John is involved since the very beginning of this program, which is 1998, and had traveled around the world sharing his wonderful experience on PEER initiatives and experiences and challenges that the countries encounter while organizing this wonderful program. So now, John, the floor is yours to share the regional level experiences on PEER initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Man. I hope I'm audible.
Yep.
Right. Before I start with my talk, I just like to acknowledge the presence of some dignitaries in the table. Ms. Pandey, the Joint Secretary, Ministry of Home Affairs, Ms. Podel, Undersecretary, NDRMA, and Mr. Tapa, Chairperson on DPNet. A pleasant good evening. ADPC colleagues, are there other distinguished guests joining virtually in this experience sharing event to commemorate the IDRR 2021? PEER Nepal implementing partners, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant evening to everyone. Over the last 35 years, ADPG has done numerous innovative work in raising awareness, in helping government institutions, development partners, and communities build capacities for disaster risk management, and in promoting disaster risk reduction throughout Asia and the Pacific region and beyond. One of which is the PEER program, the Program for Enhancement of Emergency Response, which is our main theme for tonight in Asia. That was initiated by ADPC in 1998. The program was conceptualized based on a capacity assessment conducted by ADPC, UN OCHA, the Miami-Dade Fire Rescue Department, and USAID to evaluate the existing search and rescue capacities in responding to major seismic events in four countries. So I'm really proud to say that Nepal is one of the original or pioneer countries in the program that started back in 1998, together with India, Philippines, and Indonesia. Even though there are limited capacities existing during that time, there are no collective and organized system that will be able to cope to large-scale disasters like a major earthquake in the region. Thus, the birth of search and rescue capacity building programs supported by USAID. The Miami-Dade Fire Rescue Department is implementing a similar program in Latin American countries. Brought the medical first responder and CSSR courses in 2001, combined with training for instructors or TFI as we know it, a USAID training program designed to develop trainers using adult teaching and learning methodologies, thus leading to the birth of what we know now as the PEER program. The initial offering of these courses was highly received by the emergency response organizations under the leadership of the national disaster management organizations in the four program countries. In Nepal, the program was led by the Ministry of Home Affairs and garnered immense support from implementing partners, initially from Nepal Army, Nepal Police, and Armed Police Force. In 2003, the program introduced the HOPE training that was conceptualized and developed by homegrown Asian experts on hospital preparedness, taking in mind the resource challenged operational environment of Asian hospitals. Through the contribution of Asian experts, with Nepal represented by the late Dr. Ramprasad Shrestha and other experts, Dr. Herbosa from the Philippines, the late Dr. Ravi Saxena and Engineer Ravi Sinha from India, Dr. Aryono and Engineer Teddy Bon from Indonesia. This pioneer group is considered the father of the HOPE or the Hospital Preparedness for Emergencies. Since its launching in 2003, HOPE has established its numerous accolades beyond the region, reaching as far as Europe and the Middle East. From the initial four countries, it expanded its outreach to more than 10 countries that include six Southeast Asian countries in 2009. During this time, we saw the birth of Cadre. That is a product of a collaborative work of partners of Red Cross and Red Crescent national societies, including Nepal Red Cross, supported by the American Red Cross, and of course the senior peer instructors who has been leading the charge to promote standard and quality training in the countries to reach local community first responders and replicate the peer training methodology, practice, and promote the strong fraternity of graduates to reduce unnecessary deaths and injuries and live in communities that are safe and secured. The impact of 2 decades of work in of peer in the region was evidently demonstrated in numerous emergency and disaster response. How the different emergency response organizations have put into practice key life saving rescue skills to help affected communities. A good example of this is during the 2015 Gorka earthquake, wherein peer trained responders from Nepal Army, Nepal Police, Armed Police Force was able to integrate smoothly from the international response teams from the National Disaster Response Force of India, who are similarly trained in CSSR and MFR. Because of this, PEER has contributed to enhancing regional cooperation that supported seamless interoperability of international response teams in local response mechanisms. This is through standardized procedures and operational practices learned in the peer courses. Hospitals also demonstrated their resilience and reduced hazard impact, ensuring that hospitals continue to provide the needed emergency care to patients, preventing functional collapse of the facility. This was successfully exemplified by TU Teaching Hospital, and I'm really happy to see Dr. Pradeep Vaidya there in the meeting, who is leading this charge of hospital preparedness in Nepal. And of course, together with other hospitals in Nepal that has Hope trained hospital personnel. The new phase of the peer program started a new era that focuses on enhancing stronger ownership by national partners through the leadership of nodal agency and support of implementing institutions um, in the countries, and strengthen the peer institutionalization within implementing partners to establish a sustainable capacity building program on emergency response. With many years of experience and learning from the peer program, we are now on the crossroads in which we need to reformulate our approach to ensure that capacity building in peer is not only a project or activity, but should be fully integrated in institutional mechanisms uh, to what we can consider as part of the normal operational culture and environment of partners. How peer courses and its practices can be adopted and assimilated in national policies, guidelines, programs, institutional training systems, human resource development strategies, and budgets. And I think Nepal has done a great length of doing the integration process already, and it's reflected in its national disaster management plans and strategies. Disasters are unique. No one knows when an incident will occur, where it will occur, or what will be its cause. But we can prepare for them. With the advent of COVID-19 pandemic that greatly affected millions of people and the economies, the pandemic exposed and highlighted various vulnerabilities of our society, from basic services, social protection, people, and systems. This just made us reinforce our resolute to double our efforts, prepare, and improve how we do capacity building. We need to develop partnerships to collectively confront the challenges that we face as disasters and epidemics and pandemics overwhelm the resources of all institutions. Equally important, it imposes a sustained demand for emergency services rather than the short, intense peak with many smaller scale emergencies. This adds a new dimension in many new issues to preparedness. I'm sure that this experience sharing meeting will contribute as part of the sharing and learning of best practices from Nepal that can be shared to other countries as well. A capacity building program fully owned by partners that strive for excellence and responsive to the training needs of the country and the implementing institutions. Equip our emergency responders the right tools and skills through which you will be able to manage disaster risks that our vulnerable communities face through well thought out practical training. This will help reduce the impact of disasters, the loss of lives, and lead to safer communities and sustainable development, which is ADPC's vision. I would like to thank DPNet and the Ministry of Home Affairs in organizing this event and for highlighting the experience of Nepal in implementing PEER and the continued support provided by USAID Bureau for Humanitarian Assistance. To all meeting participants and organizations you represent in taking interest in this peer journey in the last 2 decades and building stronger peer partnership in promoting a culture of preparedness in Nepal. We at ADPC is keen to see the significant ownership by Nepal and its partners, including its integration to institutional systems, for its long term sustainability. ADPC remains committed in supporting national partners in advocating regional cooperation and meaningful partnership in our quest to continuously develop capacities on emergency preparedness, response, and recovery. And to end my session, if you allow me, I just want to show a short video clip, which is just a minute long, just to honor the the peer graduates from the past since the beginning. Thank you very much, and a pleasant good evening to everyone.
Thank you, John, for sharing your wonderful experiences with us from the very beginning till today, and hopefully you will continue even in the remaining in the future as well on this great endeavor. Much appreciated. Fortunately, we have colleagues from Rescue 112 Pakistan, Ms. Javed. Ms. Javed, glad to see you around with us in this knowledge sharing workshop, and would like to request you to share your experiences with us. But before giving floor to you, fortunately, we also have our Joint Secretary, Mrs. Sumkala Pandey from Ministry of